welcome to the program. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group, hittnergroup.com, Hittner Group.com, 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. Okay, so we're cruising up here as we come towards Easter. Easter just a week and a half or 2 weeks.
When is it? Two weeks?
Yeah,
two
weeks
weekends?
out. It's April 6th?
5th, 6th.
5th, 6th, something like that. Whatever that Sunday is, number day. Coming up, so that'll have a huge impact on our real estate market in this year. Junior's out still today. I picked him up from the airport, but he had a bunch of stuff he had to take care of, so he couldn't make it in.
Why do you say it will have a huge impact on the real estate market? Just because that weekend will be slow?
The whole week will be off. Yeah, people they're going. They're traveling for Easter. They're going out of town. Their just mind is off. You don't want to put. It's a slow. Who's going to go out and show houses on Easter Sunday? You know.
Probably not on Easter Sunday, but
yeah. Well, then you got Good Friday, and you got what was it, Maudry Thursday or whatever it is, and it's just activities, weekend activities. People are just going to be off, including the real estate agents. They don't want to do it. No open houses. No anyone that's waiting to bring house. We have a number of properties that we're waiting till after Easter to bring on the market. So yeah, then it'll take up. Then we're off to the races, until the next, I guess Mother's Day fishing opening. Fishing opening is a big. That has an impact too.
Realtors have more excuses why it's
it
not
isn't
busy.
That. It's just like,
don't you think, Mike? A lot of excuses.
A lot of excuses.
It's holidays. It's this. It's that. It's Valentine's Day.
It's It's the government. They're trying to keep the peons at bay, and they do that by throwing holidays at them. Throw holidays at them. Give them a day off, and then they'll work hard for another month.
There you go.
All right. So let's run through the numbers, kids. Active listing 6365 on the market. That's about 1,000 more than we started at the beginning of the year. So a nice increase in inventory. We have, what are we up from a previous week? About 13% increase from last week. So we got properties flowing on the market. We're still hovering around that 800 mark, 851 this week, new pendants. So properties that sold this week now are pended, waiting to close. About 10% of the market that is pending. All are pending with inspections. So there's
with inspections.
Inspections. So there's
that's good.
It is good. So because when we were in the COVID years, there was no inspections on anything. It was part of it. And even now, when you have a multiple offer, you're trying to figure out, how do I make my offer more attractive? More money. Oh, I can't do that. Okay. No inspection. That's a way to do it. Well, I mean, you have limited tools. What are you going to do? Or on line 406, the purchase agreement is where you're asking the seller to pay your agent as a buyer. You can change that. Pay your own agent. That impacts the bottom line. Also impacts your cash.
Are people starting to do that a little bit?
Yeah.
Really? I've not seen that yet. Okay.
We're seeing a smaller number. Although we did one this week they put in more than normal. They also offered more, but then we're seeing that they're putting that number in there, and then offering more money above the asking price.
Okay.
All right. So in a sense, the buyer's financing their agent commission into the purchase agreement.
Is that new?
It's new this year, and it's the dumbest thing ever because it has had zero impact. They had these lawsuits, that transparency, blah, blah, blah. And then so by the time they finish their billion-dollar lawsuits and the lawyers all get paid, and now it's manifested itself out into the marketplace, nothing has changed.
Wow.
Zero has changed in how the market.
Isn't that just
it's just
criminal?
So typical,
Yeah,
though.
it is.
It's so typical.
Remember the wringing of hands on that deal?
Oh, there was so much wringing of hands, and people
remember
are
you were just like, everything will be fine.
It's a good thing for it is. I will say one thing: it does force the conversation.
Okay.
Because our listing contracts have changed. We're putting on there now what we charge, not what we charge plus what the other company's going to get, which I think is a good thing. And then from a buyer standpoint, because we met a buyer out at a property this week, and before we were going through the paperwork, and we had that conversation at this. We don't work for free, and this is what you're obligated to pay.
Mhm.
So either you're going to pay it in cash, or we're going to finance it into the deal, or somehow. But
Or the seller will contribute towards
or
it.
the seller's
yeah.
going to, somehow it gets paid, because people don't work for free. I mean,
Mhm.
everyone's got to understand that.
Right.
No,
But
no
don't
one,
you think it pretty much stays the same, that the seller just assumes,
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because that listing thing we just
Because when
had-
you're meeting with a client and it's a listing conversation, you're like, hey, typically we're going to pay out 2.7% to the buyer who brings the buyer, right?
Right.
That makes sense. And people nod their head, go, yep, and you just move on.
yeah.
Right. It's
What-
just now you have to say that before. You're an anomaly, but most realtors don't want to have any hard conversations. So
Oh.
they don't want to have that talk about, like, hey, I'm going to get paid on this.
Yeah,
You know?
ooh,
You
like
know.
some kind of sick, and agents, because of that, have been telling people
Mhm.
for decades that the buyer agent, there's no fees. You don't pay any
No
fees.
cost. No cost to use me.
Right. And the truth of the matter is there was cost. It was just built into the purchase
Right.
price and hidden
Mm-hmm.
behind there. So it does make it more
Yep.
transparent. It's good.
That's good.
It's fine if you just have the conversation. All right. So now I want to talk about this thing here, because it just drives me crazy.
Okay.
This is from the National Association of Realtors, so they monitor trends and stuff like that. So whatever you think about them as an organization, they do monitor the market. Parents are saving up to help their kids buy a home. So now the expectation is
Mhm.
that you put your kid through college. You
Oh,
raise them first.
raise
of
'em
all.
first.
Raise
That's
them
not
first,
free.
right?
Yeah.
Then put them through college.
Yep.
Then you give them money to help them buy a home.
Hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, at what point does the kid start paying his own freight? Is that ever, and why is that?
Mm-hmm.
I put it to you, why is that?
Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have never forced their kids to take responsibility for anything financial in their life, or probably in general, right? So, and every spring break, we're talking about every spring break, you got to go on a trip. You can't not go on a trip. Every sport, every tournament, everything, just like kids are so catered to that they never learn responsibility. I think there's a big part of it.
Mike?
Yeah, and it's really hard to buy a house now. Right?
No.
Isn't it expensive now or not?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
So bubble
So
gum
the-
is expensive too. It used to be a nickel, and now it's a buck for a pack of gum. So what?
But you hear it a lot, right? That
I hear it all the time,
that
but
this generation is having a hard time buying a house.
you know what I think? I see a lot of kids, younger kids, buying houses, right? And I talk to them like, these guys got their heads screwed on.
Yeah.
They got jobs, they're saving money.
Yep.
They're just conservative in their approach. And I hear other people who are complaining how expensive everything is, and I say, show me your credit card statement, and I will show you where the money is to buy a house, because so much of it is wasted.
Mm-hmm.
John Stossel, that guy. Okay, to your point, he has one of his vignettes or whatever
Mhm.
that talks about how much things were back when and today. He goes, it's no different.
No.
It's just talked about.
Right.
It's just
Like it's
politicized.
I bought a house for $69,000 in South Minneapolis, right over by the river, nice Tudor, and I was making $18,000 a year. $18,000 a year.
And your interest rate was what to start?
7%.
Oh, it was 7? Oh,
Yeah,
it was that low?
7%.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was higher.
So then maybe it was 9. I think it was 7. Might have been. I'll have to check.
Okay.
It's a good question. I still have the paperwork.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
Of course you do.
Anyhow, so that now that same house is worth probably $450. But kids come out of school, you got a tradesman coming out of the deal, and now he's a HVAC guy. He's making $110,000 a year too.
Right.
So
But it is harder to find
they're making
those-
more
Yeah.
as a percentage of the sale price than I was.
Okay.
Hmm.
But they're also eating DoorDash three
Right.
times a week, and then going out to dinner the other times of the week.
Yep.
And then they're driving a new leased vehicle or something like that. And then they've got their gaming app on their phone that's costing them $200 a month. And then they got their cell phone bill that's costing them $200. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just all this stuff that money's going other places.
Mhm.
And it used to be that owning a home was such a focal point of pride and
Mhm.
building your family unit and all that stuff, that it was a priority. Now it seems like other things are priorities.
Yeah. Well, it used to be that you would stay around where you grew up, and people are very transient now,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
And all
Okay,
these
we gotta-
luxury apartments too.
Oh,
These luxury apartments.
Oh,
it's
unbelievable.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
that's good.
All right, 612-627-8000 is the phone number. 612-627-8000. This is your real estate chalk talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com. Roof to deck coming up next segment. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the program. This is your real estate chalk talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com. HITTNER Group.com. 612-627-8000. 612-627-8000. Mike's in the studio. Many time guest, roof to deck restoration, coming into your transition time of the year.
Yeah. Well, so next week we'll start refinishing decks, power
Next
washing,
week?
staining decks. Yeah. April 1st is usually kind of our thing.
Is it going to be warm enough?
Yeah.
Really?
It's just you want it. You don't want it freezing. I mean, what was it yesterday? 72, 73?
72, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? You'll have some cold days, but you get some warm days. So we can wash when it's cooler. Then you want to stain when it's a little warmer.
Christmas lights all down.
Yep, Christmas lights are all down.
So explain to the people who are listening your seasonal nature of your business so
Yep.
they know what we're talking about here.
So the company is, RTD Services. We've rebranded it.
Okay.
To kind of capture it all. So I always tell everyone, we're a power washing company, spring, summer, fall. We're a snow plowing company in the wintertime to try to make it easy. So what that looks like is we power wash and stain wood decks, fences, gazebos, porches, cedar shake roofs. We wash trucks for like FedEx, Coca-Cola, 2-minute truck, stuff like that. And that's kind of year-round. But if it's cold, and it was really cold this last winter, so we didn't wash as much as we normally did. And then we wash buildings and parking garages, big ones, U of M, 3M, United Health. And every new condo or apartment building gets an underground parking garage, seems to me. And if you don't get that salt and stuff out of there, that's going to be a problem. So that's April through October. We do Christmas lighting, so that kind of bridges from October into middle of December. And then we do snow plowing. We do commercial and residential snow plowing and ice dams.
And parking lot striping.
Yeah, we do line striping. That's right.
Because I pull into I play pickleball a couple times a week, and I pull into my pickleball place, and I'm trying to back up, into with my school bus that I drive around in, my Lincoln Navigator, long one, and I always look for those stripes, and the stripes are pretty faded in that parking lot. So, those stripes really help.
Yeah.
Do they? And you know what else it seems to me? They're making them narrower.
The striping.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Making it narrower so
Do you think so?
squeeze more
the
cars.
stripes themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, smaller.
The parking spaces.
That always, when you go to Costco, you ever go there?
Yeah.
Okay, so they've got circles.
They're wonderful.
Yeah, so you can do it differently. Right?
So you can open the door.
Open your door and pack all that stuff in.
Right. So they know that you're coming out there with a load of stuff, and you got to get the door open. But some of these things you can barely get the door open. You squeeze out, and then without hitting the neighbor's car and stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing to do then?
Ice dams. My ice dams.
You were
are my
out in
favorite.
Boston again?
We
this
did.
year?
We went out to Boston for 2 weeks. We went out there.
And
It was great.
And how many guys do you have out there?
It was interesting because the last time we were there was 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it had been that long, and they got a lot of snow, and so everything looked like it would line up, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we sent 12 vans out there with 24 guys, and the first couple days were not busy. Man,
I bet you're a nervous
walking
guy, right?
heart attack. Yeah, it's like, oh my, did I just bring out 24 guys and 12 vans for nothing? And it was weird because all of a sudden in the morning it would be busy. It's like, oh good, we got it. Now it's back. And then the afternoon was slow. And so, but no, it ended really, really well.
Talk
so it
through
was totally worth.
How do
going.
people find you when you're in Boston and you're a Minneapolis guy?
It's pay per click. So Google, you can make sure you're at the top. And then during these events, it's a news thing too.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there, we were on the news first day. I mean, literally, I got there. I had a crew showing up around 1 o'clock.
Did you arrange that, or who?
Yeah, I just get on the phone. I call all the TV stations, say, hey, we're from Minnesota. We're doing ice dams. If you'd like, we'd be happy to be on the show for you. And then boom, you had two. I was downtown Boston for one segment, and I was in a suburb of Boston the next. And then Boston, it was pretty interesting. The Boston Globe, it was just starting to kind of wrap up, And the Boston Globe ran an article on ice dams, and then kaboom, phones rang like crazy. And they
Isn't that crazy?
Extended our thing a couple days.
Yeah. I just wouldn't think that would do it, but it really does. Because I'm so anti, nobody reads the newspaper, nobody reads but they do.
Just enough.
Then they
people
start
did.
calling.
Yeah. So that was great.
So and then you got to house those guys, stay in hotels, motels. They work in long days.
Yeah, really long days, and
because you got to get it before it melts.
Yeah, I tell the guys.
It's going to melt one way or the other. Let's go get paid.
You see who your smart guys are and
Yeah.
your not so smart guys. It's like a guy was there 3 days and then you wanted to go and take the day off and look at Boston.
Okay.
You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This all is going to go away in a matter of days. That sort of thing. But that's always interesting too.
Well, that tells you a lot, right?
It does.
That's crazy.
It tells you
Human nature,
why
right?
people are where they're at.
Yeah.
Like your last conversation about people are doing DoorDash and stuff and they're not buying a house.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a choice. You get to make your choice.
So what do you do in that, just running the organization? A guy says that to you. Do you say, hey, at the end of this, why don't you take that day? But right now, let's work.
Yeah, just go to work. And then other guys are smart. They work. And that they know.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys that have been, and it's kind of a funny thing. That's always a new guy thing. Guys that have been with me for a while, it's like you don't take a day off, kind of thing. And to your point, we're literally flying guys in and out of Boston to say, okay, we need 3 more guys tomorrow, and then we arrange it, and then boom, we got them the next morning, and we put them to work that day, kind of thing. That's ice stamps.
That's ice dams.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then the equipment, you just have it stored, waiting for the next.
Yeah.
For 10 years from now, or what?
Exactly. We have 35 steam machines. I think we have more steam. I think we have the most in the country for this sort of thing, and so we can be super mobile. We know in Boston we've done it before, so we knew exactly where we were going to operate from because you do storage units that are heated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this machinery you can't leave it out at night because it's going to freeze.
Right.
So we do that, and then we put everybody up in a hotel, and there's per diems that you're giving them to pay for food and all that kind of stuff.
How do you find heated storage units on a whim?
They're everywhere. Heated storage, like Extra Space.
Yeah.
That would be one. That's the place we just use. We actually plow snow for them here, which is cool. They're all heated. A lot of them are heated.
So how many do you pick up then?
What I've learned here too is that so I always do 2 teams per unit because you could get a really big unit and it would be way cheaper and you'd put them all in there. But then what happens is these guys take everybody else's stuff. So the last guy that gets in, all his stuff is gone, right? So it's 2 per thing. So if your stuff is missing, you know who took it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you learn all that stuff as you go. We've been doing this for a long time now.
That's hilarious. Why Boston?
Well, that's where it was. You go
Wherever it is.
You go where the snow is.
Yeah.
So we'll go anywhere.
But the last time you were in Boston, too.
11 years ago.
Yeah.
No, but we had it 3 years ago in Minneapolis.
Oh,
We've been
okay.
to Chicago a number of times, Milwaukee a couple of times, Omaha. But Boston it's a lot of people, and there's there's a lot of money in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
so they can afford the service.
So it's like storm chasing,
Right? A little bit.
isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
So do you monitor that then, or how do
Yeah,
you-
we're watching it all the time, kind of
Really?
thing. Yeah, and it's 2 weeks. We did it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you would think 2 weeks, roofing company, they'll be there for months, right?
Right.
No. This thing it's a natural disaster that happens in a very short period of time. And then you're watching, and people in Boston, they have no idea what these guys aren't built for ice dams, right? They don't have this kind of equipment, so they're up there with hammers and hatchets.
Yeah, ruining the roof.
Banging stuff up. We got a great review from a guy that just said, "Man, I am so glad I found this company from Minnesota, and you guys were so professional. You got it done so fast, with no damage, right?" And that's what it's all about. That's cool. It's really fun.
That's super fun.
That is super fun, and it's just another example of ways to do business. But
Right.
you have to be on your toes.
Yeah.
You have to be watching. You have to be ready to act. You have to have your systems in place.
Yeah.
And to fly out there and take
And
advantage
it's a
of it.
risk, man. You are taking on a big risk.
Oh,
Big risk, big payoff, big loss.
Mhm.
And we plow snow. So we have a bunch of our guys in Boston doing ice dams.
Right.
Then it was forecasted to snow the next day. We flew 8 guys home to plow snow. and then you got to put them back on an airplane and fly back. Well, think what that costs.
Mhm.
You know, that sort of thing. So all that goes into it.
What do you
It's
do
a
about
lot.
what do you do about the March snowfalls? And when back in the day when we owned the garden centers, we do a lot of plowing for the federal government, and then we had other contracts too, and everything that we did was always by the hour. And the March snowfalls, especially for people that maybe didn't have a relationship with, hard time getting paid for it.
Huh.
You know, you go out there, you plow, you got this big 14-inch snowfall, and then 2 days later it's gone. By the time they get the bill,
Yeah.
it's
You know,
melted.
we're people pay. I don't know. People just seem to pay. Boston would be a good example of that too. It's gone. I mean, like you said, it's boom, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you just got a bill that from a company out of Minnesota. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how much effort can we do to get it back? But no,
Right.
you know what? People are, you know, people are pretty. The people, I guess, in our customer base are conscientious and they pay us.
And the damage that can come from a ice dam on a roof is significant, because it isn't just that you got some ice on the roof; it's all the water damage
It's the water. It's all
inside
water
the
damage.
house.
And
And those are the only people calling us.
Yeah.
Is the water coming in?
Yeah. Okay, we got to head up the break. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com. HITTNER Group.com. 612-627-8000. That's 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-ling-ling. We'd be happy to have a chat with you about your real estate needs. And, of course, that first call was with no cost and absolutely no obligation. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk with the Hittner Group. HittnerGroup.com. HITTNER Group.com. 612-627-8000. 612-627-8000. Give us a ring-a-ling-a-ling, and we'll have a chat with you about getting your property ready for sale. We've got a lot of activity going on right now all over the Twin Cities. Minneapolis, St. Paul, northern suburbs, western suburbs, southern suburbs, rural properties, lakeshore properties. Just tons and tons of activity where people are getting their properties ready for sale. Shocking sometimes at how the general public, the seller, I'm speaking of sellers right now, still have this notion that it's a strong seller's market. And there's quite a bit of resistance and pushback to correctly preparing the property for sale, because there's this notion that they can put it on, and they're actually expecting multiple offers. You have to have a conversation with, something you might not get multiple offers.
do you take your sheet there and talk about the average days on market then?
Always.
Because that's a really important thing.
Always. Yeah.
To
Because
get
that's
perspective, right?
Well, the average days on market right now are properties that are not sold, that are currently for sale, is like 60 days.
Wow.
That's out there. The properties that have sold,
Mm-hmm.
the pending sales, new pendings, are like 30 days.
Okay.
Okay, so
What's that telling you?
it tells me that new properties that are coming on the market are better prepared for sale than the stuff that's been
There it
sitting
is.
out there.
Sure.
Yeah, much better prepared for sale. And pricing is huge.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have your pricing dialed in. The appreciation has been nominal over the last year and a half. So we don't have that double digits. You can't, if your market shows, I'll pick a number, 300,000. You don't just put it on for 350 because the market shows 300.
Right.
So it's 300. The properties that sold in the last 3 months, like yours, like properties in similar condition, the assumption is that they're all prepared for sale, and you look at the photos and stuff, and you can tell which ones are a dump and which ones are nice. That here's one just like yours that sold down the street for 300. What makes you think yours is worth 350?
Mm-hmm.
It isn't. It's 300. And if you price it at 295, you might get 310. If you price it at 310, you're going to get 300. Multiple offers sometimes come in, and they just get you back to the listing price.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mhm.
So there's that, and many people, they just don't, either they don't have the resources to prepare the property. If they have some painting that needs to be done, or some carpet that needs to be replaced, or windows that need to be repaired, they just don't have the money.
Windows are tough, but carpet paint is stuff though that you have a program through Coldwell Banker where you can do it.
And
There's
windows
a program
too.
through Flex that can
Yeah.
do it.
Windows really aren't that tough. I mean, people have this conception that they have to replace windows. You don't have to replace windows. Most of the windows, the frames are fine, unless they're rotting and falling out of the wall. the frames are fine. Maybe you've got some glass that has lost
Yeah.
its seal. Well, you can just replace the panes. You don't have to replace the entire window, just a sash. And that's relatively inexpensive. So you can do that for only $500 a pane or $300, whatever. It depends on the kind of window it is. That's a lot less expensive than replacing the entire window. And you have to just replace these two, because once you start replacing windows, now it's like, well, where do I stop with that?
Right.
Because
Right.
I don't want this hodgepodge of, well, I just replaced the front windows, and it's like, well, what about the side windows? If you needed to replace the front ones, maybe you should have replaced the side ones. And it also changes the especially in the older homes,
Changes the look.
changes the look and nature and feel of the house. And some people want that traditional look, the wood window. They don't want a white plastic window in the front. They want the wood windows and all that. So
Can I get back to Mike here on a couple
Sure,
of questions?
yeah.
So, Mike, you were talking last segment about the about ice dams and all that. So when you're out in Boston, you said water's coming in. Those are the people calling
Those
you
are people
because,
calling.
and we talked at dinner last night. So how's water getting in? Is there a leak somewhere, or is it just the fact that they have an ice dam?
Yeah, no, it's an ice dam. You have an ice dam, and it's called an ice dam because it works like a dam on a river. It's the snow at the very top of your roof melts, and then it saturates the snow at the bottom where there's no heat. So the heat is at the peak, melts the snow, and then it gets wet, saturates, and then just turns into a giant block of ice. There's a point whereas, it'll keep freezing until it doesn't. And so then there's a spot that's like close enough to the top and close enough to the bottom where it just stays like water.
And that's the dam.
And a roof isn't designed to be waterproof. It's supposed to just shed the water. So there's not a house out there that isn't going to get that isn't going to have leaking most of the time.
Okay, so it's not, because I get nervous about that and go, okay, man, there must be a hole in my roof somewhere or something, but it's not.
It's a design issue. It's a ventilation because you got to have that. Your attic should be as ice cold as the outside. There should be no difference in attic space. So there's designs out there that are prevalent. So you go into South Minneapolis, Edina, Highland Park, and all these older homes that weren't built the way they are today, and they're more prone to have an ice dam. We've done ice dams in every possible neighborhood you can imagine.
So talk about the people that you have working for you. How do you choose which guys you take out there and which guys you don't? Or is it just you just make an offer out to your team and say, hey, who wants to go do this?
Yeah, everybody wants to go. Everybody
wants to go.
The guys that don't go are not happy. Everybody wants to go.
Okay.
And it's not hard.
And
you're
you decide.
You're melting ice. That's it. You're not building a table.
Not doing the pyramids or anything crazy.
Nothing. It's
right?
the easiest thing you can do. You just stand there and wait and you can't force ice to melt. The machine is going to melt it at
right.
a pace.
Let the machine do its job.
Yeah, exactly. And don't rush it. And it's going to come off faster when it's 30 than it is at 10. So that's part of it. And that's it.
Talk a little bit about your business here. Obviously, RTD Services, you've been around for 30 years. Second chance employer. Talk about how you're finding guys to get ready for this next market that you're coming into.
The economy finding employees now is not hard.
Really?
A few years ago it was impossible. You couldn't find anybody. Not anymore. You run an ad, you're going to get a lot of responses.
Where do you run ads?
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed works the best. We used to use Craigslist years ago, but
Okay.
Indeed works really well.
And talk about being a second chance employer. What are the sources of those leads that are coming in?
We work with a lot of people. We've been doing it for a long time, and then I always tell them, it's like, just understand something. We're not a charity. We're not a nonprofit. We're a business, and you have to be great to work here. Not good, great. So just know that, and here's what that looks like. And it's show up, get things done, do the right thing, grow or die. And so there's some great people out there that have done stupid things, and when you find them, it's magic.
That's great. That's great.
It's funny because in our team we've kind of adopted the same mentality, because our real estate community in general, and I got to be careful here because our code of ethics says you can't say anything bad about real estate agents. So in general, I'm talking about people. You have people who are dabblers. and who are not really invested in any job, whatever it is, and they get their real estate license thinking that they can drive a big car and drive around and make a lot of money, and don't realize until they get in there what kind of work is involved in that.
Sure.
And they're just not. So those people now, you can't be part of the Hittner group. You just can't be part of it. We don't want you. It just doesn't work. Every time if there's a problem with a file, it's from those people.
Yep.
When you've got somebody that's committed to the profession and is out there working and serving the client, and going to the continuing ed and doing those things to improve, and are dedicated and working hard, they'll succeed and they'll do very, very well. But the rest of the people, they got to get out. Just, let your license go and go get a job.
And everybody shows you who they are in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long.
It doesn't take long. And the excuse making that comes, and I'm very intolerant about excuse making. It was, this is retail. It's nights and weekends. So if you're planning on having this flexible, quote unquote, career where you can make your own hours, those hours better include nights and weekends.
Yeah.
And then your free time is going to be at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, right? That's your free time, because you got to be available when the people are available, and go out and do the work. And if you're not, if you got to want to have the weekends off at the lake all the time,
it's tough. I had a call last night, 9:45. Say, hey, looks like there's multiple offers on this property. Can you run numbers for us? Can we talk through it? And you're talking through it until about 10:20 at night.
Right.
And they're just like, dude, that's awesome. Thanks for being available. But
because so many aren't.
Because 9 out of 10 loan officers you call won't answer
that call.
But
I love those guys.
I do.
I do too. I do too. Anytime you're committed to doing anything, that's why I love the trades, and I love union workers for commercial trades, because they are skilled labor. They know their jobs.
Yeah, they're professionals.
They're professionals at their jobs. And even when you get down to like a 49er, driving a piece of equipment, it's that piece of equipment. Nobody drives it better than they do. And I just love that. It's almost like sports.
Right.
We'll be right back after these messages. Hey, welcome back. This is your Real Estate Chalk Talk, the money segment of the program. 651-231-2500 is the money hotline. Give it a ring-a-ling-a-ling. Low rates, low cost to acquire. Right?
Medium rates.
Medium rates. What? 6.5, 6?
6.5, 6 points. 6.5 national average right now, where we were under 6. So it's moved up pretty dramatically.
Do you think that's dramatic? I don't see that as dramatically.
People sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you quote them 5.99 and they're excited, and then their payments at 6.5 or 6.25
is $350 a month more.
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a big deal right now. And in the big scheme of things, when rates were at 7.5, 6.5 was great. But like anything, right? So this morning market opened off, and people ask why that's going on. Just be real simple for folks. A lot of pressure on the economy right now. The European Central Bank is saying they may raise rates, let alone, like we're trying to lower rates, they're going to raise rates as they have great fears of inflation. So that just trickles through whether it should or shouldn't.
Isn't that something? So that says that the economy is strong and growing quickly, and you raise rates to cool it off. That's the whole. That's what the.
Yeah, because inflation is going. They're trying to cool that down.
They're trying to cool it off.
Yep. And then you have this stuff going on in Iran, obviously, and they talk about oil, and everybody's like, "Oh, we got enough oil here. We don't need them. We don't need anybody else." We all pound our chest. The oil companies are selling oil for $150 a barrel overseas,
right,
and not for 80 here, right? So that's what's going on. So do we? That's so. It's like it's challenging sometimes for people to understand, and well, that shouldn't bother us. That doesn't matter because we're self-sufficient, and
we're not going to run out.
We're not going to run out, but they're sure not going to just sell here.
They're not going to give it away either.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. So it'll be really interesting. And Trump's mentioned, when the quarterly profits come up for these oil companies to see was it really hard, or did they just like jack the
Profit
price.
taking.
Yeah, profit taking, right?
I think you're going to see some profit taking.
Yeah, so we'll see. So, but that's why rates are moving. There's just this unsettled feeling. I think anytime you're in war, rates got a little bit better when Trump said, "Hey, we're going to have a conversation," but now they don't really know who to talk to. 'Cause most of them are dead. And there's some reality to that.
Yeah.
And we kind of chuckle about, but who do you call? You know? And
well,
but
we still have their ambassador, so he's got to be in touch with somebody.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I really hope we get through it and get out of it, and that we can just get back. We were in a really nice spot there for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
High fives, low sixes was good. So
and it'll come back around.
Yeah. We just have to be able to pay the bills until that happens,
Yeah.
Keith. All right, I got a couple issues with you.
All right.
First issue, multiple offers. Still seeing them.
Still seeing them.
And it doesn't make sense. There's homes sitting on the market for 60 days, yet I'm seeing multiple offers. We had 19 offers on one property. It's perfect. Exactly the home you think of.
Yep.
But it's like, holy cow. So what kind of market are we in? Is it a buyer's market, seller's market, or would you just say super balanced on and great properties sell fast?
I think that's the answer. Super balanced, great properties sell fast. Properties with a little hair, so someone who tries to take a shortcut and they need to do some work, and they'll, do we really have to do that here that all the time? I didn't want to replace a carpet. Do I really need to replace a carpet? The honest answer is yes. And at a minimum, can you have it professionally cleaned? Don't go rent a cleaner. Have it professionally cleaned.
Yep.
Steam cleaned so that pile stands up, and if there's spots in it and stains in it, yes, because no one is going to pay top dollar. Homes are expensive.
Yep.
No one is going to pay top dollar for someone else's dirty rug.
Yep. Well, you mentioned earlier, just at coffee on a townhome that my fiance is going to sell, just a normal crack over time that's going to happen normally.
Right.
And her philosophy is, I don't even notice it.
Right.
I said, but that's because you live there.
That's because you live.
Right.
It's like a billboard.
But
after a while, you don't even see it anymore.
Right. But when Keith walks in, that thing's like bright
neon
sign.
Yep.
So I said, you gotta fix it because Keith will be all crabby otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
So
fix this, and you're right. You have to have it in the best shape possible right now.
We say we eliminate the eliminators because that's how they make decisions. Someone will have this idea of what they want, and they'll walk into a property, and if it doesn't match that, that property gets eliminated. So if you're looking at 20 properties, you can't look at 20 items and select one that you're going to pick.
Okay.
You can't do it. So that's not how our brain works. How our brain works, we're deletionists. So we look for the things that don't match our ideal, and we eliminate them to try to reduce that pool that we're looking at. So once we get down to about 5 properties, now you're starting to be in a position where you can choose one of them, and we're still going to eliminate them. We're going to say, yeah, I really like that one, so but it's got this. I don't want that. And so that one gets pushed out. So when we prepare properties for sale, some things are obvious eliminators. I'll give you one that people hate to hear about, and that is woodwork. That's all beat up. Beat up from the vacuum cleaner hitting it, from the dog chewing on the lower corner, from the kids dragging the toys in and out, bang, 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 the cat scratching. People will look at that, and it makes the whole room. You can have the nicest furniture, the nicest staging with beat up woodwork, and people look at it and it looks tired. So that's an eliminator, because someone will look at that and it just this overall impression of the care and maintenance of the house kind of goes down a notch.
Interesting.
So eliminate the eliminators.
Tell me about my next issue. Had a couple of appraisal issues, and in your industry, it seems like if an appraisal comes in low, what we do is we go back to our buyer's agent and the listing agent say, hey, listing agent, please provide the comps that you use to determine the price of this home, just so we have them, because I'm going to go battle now on our side. We want to say, hey, give us the ammunition to say, no, you missed these things, Mr. Appraiser. And then that's from the listing agent. And then from the buyer's agent, we say, hey, buyer's agent, when you were determining what to offer on this property, what were the comps you used to say, hey, this makes sense as an offer?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how often they have well, it was listed for this and there's multiple offers, so we just offered this.
Mm-hmm.
But
let me explain that to you.
Okay.
And I'll let me explain it. When you do a market on a house,
Mm-hmm.
or when an appraiser looks at comps,
Yep.
they're looking at history.
Correct.
All right. So they're looking at what something sold for in the past.
In the recent past.
Doesn't matter. It's in the past. Now, when we price something, we're pricing for the market today. I don't care what somebody paid for it last month. I am concerned about what someone's going to pay for it today. And I'll look at that property, if it's well prepared and all that stuff. Part of that conversation is how many options are available to them. Okay? So I have an example. We have an estate house that we're looking at, and it has a part of the estate that we have to find a home for is a shotgun. So it's a Ruger 12 gauge over and under shotgun.
Okay.
That sells for probably $2,500 new.
Okay.
They don't make them anymore. It's a limited edition. What do you think I'm going to get for that shotgun? Right?
Over 2,500.
It's a valuable, piece of hardware. All right. So same thing with a house. So now I'm looking at a house in Eagan.
Yep.
A 4-bedroom house in Eagan in the 196 school district and Eagan High School and all the good schools near parks and all that stuff. And how many of them are available in that neighborhood? None. Just mine. Do you think I'm going to get a premium for that? Of course I will. When you go into, I used to do pricing for builders.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go into a development and I'd walk the lots and we would set premiums on the lots. Now it costs the same to develop all those lots. But some lots were just able to sell for more because they've got a better view, because it's a better walkout, because there's a pond behind, because it's got this, that, for whatever, where it's located. So, it's the marketplace. What is a willing buyer willing to pay, and what is a willing seller willing to sell it for? That's true market value. And the appraisal doesn't look at market value. They're looking at history.
They look at history close to the primary.
Whatever the criteria is,
Yep.
They're looking at history, and they're trying to minimize risk to the bank.
Yep, to a degree, but the appraiser wins. So in both these cases, guess what? They all came down.
Until a cash buyer comes in.
Yep, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So these buyers got a lot better deal by tune of like 27,000 on the one, because there just was no justification, and the comps were close, and it was a similar house, and they looked at the same pond, because there's a pond, there's a house
only
there,
because
house
the
here.
seller was willing to go along with it.
Yep, but they would have the same problem, because the next person that comes in, unless it's a cash offer, is going to have that same,
Right.
because they tried to go to a different lender. And I talked to the other lender, because I've been doing this way too long, and you know everybody, and said, because they said, hey, send us your appraisal. I'm like, you really want it? It's $27,000 light. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting. I would just say, make sure that you know why you're offering what you're offering. That would be also the other side of that coin potentially. So
Well, if it's the only apple in the cart,
yeah.
and you're hungry for an apple, sometimes
You're
you're
gonna
going to
pay
pay
for it.
more for the apple.
So Kelvin Kamick, Loan Depot, love to have a conversation with you regarding your home financing needs. A lot of great options out there. Give me a call, 651-231-2500. We'll see you next week.
But when he calls me sugar, I love that man with all my might. Sugar in the morning, sugar in the afternoon. Sugar after dinner, sugar in every room. He says I'm sweet as I can be. When he calls me that name, it does things to me. I tell him, honey,